Hello, this is Reed Stow for your daily weather briefing for Tuesday, March 8th, 2016. We're going to be starting a new series here, and we're going to be tracking the weather on a daily basis, at least 5 days out of the week, as best as possible. And so we're going to start off today looking at the current weather conditions across the United States. And if we look at the current weather conditions, and this is about 17Z, you can see that we've got a couple of low pressure systems over the Minnesota and North and South Dakota location, with the cold front extending back to another low pressure system that's near around Nogales, Arizona. And then a weaker low pressure system out here in West Texas with a little bit of a dry line cold front intersection here taking place along the Oklahoma Texas border here. Out in front of that is a pretty large swath of showers and thunderstorms. A lot of heavy rain associated with these storms. This purple area indicates a tornado watch that is currently in effect for portions of east central Texas. A lot of winds out of the southeast, going around a high pressure system that is over the eastern part of the United States, and some more precipitation out west associated with some storm systems that are coming in on the west coast there. But in general, across the Intermountain West, the weather has now calmed down quite a bit. As of yesterday, it was pretty strong with different types, with a few weather systems moving through the area. Looking at the current watch warning map, we see a large area of flash flood watches and warnings, some leftover severe thunderstorm watches and tornado watches in effect over the area, but most of the central portion of the United States is under a flash flood watch or flash flood warnings for the large amount of precipitation that is about to take place over the next several days with a stalled low pressure system. There's also some flash flood watches and advisories in effect over portions of western Texas, some winter weather advisories over New Mexico and Arizona, and then some coastal flood advisories and surf advisories along the California coast. Looking at the satellite pictures on the eastern portion of the United States, you can see a pretty deep low pressure system again associated around Minnesota area there with a trailing cold front, and then a large swath of thunderstorms and showers over most of Oklahoma and Texas with a deep inflow of moisture coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. Now, if we look at the western portion of the United States, we see an upper level low that's just south of Arizona here. This will be our upper level low that moves into the central plains. It will cause a lot of precipitation and flooding issues down the road and some potential for some severe weather. We also see a strong jet stream that's going to be pounding along the west coast here with constant storms, mainly over Washington, Oregon, and northern and central California. There may be down the road, we might see some storms that move along the southern portion of the coast there that will eventually affect the southwest, but those charts are up for debate right now. Looking at the current radar situation again, as we looked at earlier, we have a large area of precipitation across the central portion of the United States. Several strong thunderstorms over central Texas. We'll look at those in more detail here. Not a lot of precipitation associated with the storm system, the strong low that moved out of the western portions of the United States into the northern portions, but there is some wraparound moisture, a little bit of snow flurries, and maybe some light freezing drizzle associated with that low, but most of the precipitation is being bottled up over the central portion of the United States. And then we have some precipitation across the western portion of the United States with the flow off the Pacific out there. Looking a little closer at radar, around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we have some pretty strong thunderstorms, a nice little broken line of thunderstorms all the way from southeastern Oklahoma into the central portions of Texas there. A few thunderstorms we can see some indicators of mid-level rotation as well as some hail indicators with these storms. The purple area indicating the current tornado watch that is in effect. This tornado watch is slowly being weeded away as the conditions become less favorable for tornadoes at this point in time. But I would expect later on today we'll see some more watches in effect for this area. Now we're going to look at the severe weather analysis. Currently, right now, SPC as of 17Z has a enhanced severe weather risk, mainly over southeastern and southern portion of the Texas, with a large area of a slight risk of severe weather. Extending all the way into central Oklahoma with a marginal risk surrounding that area, and then general thunderstorms extending all the way from southwestern or southeastern Arizona through New Mexico, all the way up into the northern plains, and then south and east towards Indiana, Tennessee, and Mississippi. The biggest specific area of interest right now will be over south and southeastern Texas. However, when we look at the conditions here, we're going to look at see what the conditions are favorable for this area. We look at the tornado risk. It's kind of hard to see right now, but the tornado risk is 10% over this area. Thus, that's the reason for the enhanced risk at this point in time. Looking at the current conditions, you can see there's a large, pretty much the Gulf of Mexico is wide open here, and the dew points are ranging all the way from the mid to upper 60s with a few 70s along the coast there of Texas. The dew points extend all the way up into the 50s, up into the northern plains, all the way up to the Canadian border there, as we have a really large swath of warm, deep, moist air that's heading northward. These dew points will continue to increase as time goes on along this funnel boundary and dry line out here towards the west here. So we'll continue to see showers and thunderstorms continue over this area, especially as the upper level low off south of Arizona begins to move towards this area. Looking at the CAPE values at this point in time, and this is going to be really important here. We do see some increased CAPE values up to about between 500 and 750 joules per kilogram around Minnesota there. So we'll see some around Iowa and southern Minnesota. So we'll probably see some thunderstorms develop in that area later today. But really, the strongest CAPE values are out here in southwest and south central Texas, and off the coast here. And if you look where the enhanced risk is for today, that area is kind of not very unstable at this point in time because there's a lot of clouds and precipitations and boundary layers associated with this. What we're going to see in our outlook here is we're going to see that these conditions may be waning a little bit in this area here as the air is a little bit more stable, but maybe a little bit more conditionally unstable out here around the San Antonio area and southward. If we look at the convective inhibition, we have quite a bit of air inhibition again over the areas of where the enhanced and slight risks are at this point in time. We expect this to weed out, but as you can see over here between Austin, San Antonio, all the way to the Mexico border here, we've got quite an opening area for convection to begin starting to develop in that area. If we look at the 3K storm relative helicity, again, this is kind of disjointed here. The helicity values are a lot higher, but more associated with an area of less stability or less instability. So, and there's more instability out here towards the southwest. So I would imagine anywhere from around Abilene, from Wichita Falls to Abilene to San Angelo down to San Antonio, probably that's where the greater risk of severe weather will probably increase later today, and then we'll see how that increases as time goes on. You can see over here towards the southwest portion of this map more helicity being associated with that upper level low. As that upper level low begins to eject and stall towards the southwestern portion of Texas, we'll see some of that come in contact with these higher CAPE values, and we could see more thunderstorm activity increase in that area. Looking at the EHI values, again, the strongest EHI values are off the coast here and kind of disjointed away from the instability. I would imagine that this will probably increase as time goes on. So I would imagine right now at this point the areas probably with a greater tornado risk are going to be along the coast here and eventually increasing as time goes on towards the southwest. And when we look at the significant tornado parameters, these parameters are pretty high. They're mostly in the 4s and 5s off the coast here. Again, and this is just northeast of Corpus Christi and south of Houston. Again, there's a little swath of that going up towards Dallas, but again, the instability levels are pretty low here. We do have some scattered levels of 1 to 2 values out here into the southwestern portion of Texas, and I think this will probably increase as time goes on. Look at the supercell composite parameter. Again, that kind of lines up with the EHI values as well as the significant tornado parameters. Again, all the way from Austin to Victoria and southeast or southwest of Houston, the values are a little bit higher here. Again, I think this will begin to shift a little bit more as the upper level low begins to move into the area there. Looking about 6 hours out from 17Z, this is the high-res forecasted radar here, and again we have a large swath of precipitation that extends all the way from Topeka, Kansas down towards the Gulf Coast here, and you can see a little bit more broken thunderstorm activity towards the southwest of this swath. A lot of heavy rain associated with this along that boundary and so forth. So some of these storms here will become a little bit more isolated and broken, and I would expect the chances for the severe weather is going to increase with these storms, especially towards the coastal area. My concern here is if you look at the high res, you begin to see some isolated supercells out here by San Angelo and Abilene and San Antonio, and I would expect that this is probably where we're going to see more of the larger severe weather with large hail, damaging thunderstorm winds, and probably some tornadoes in this area. I would expect as time goes on over time. Looking at the winds aloft, first of all, we're going to look at the 925 millibar winds. We have a strong screaming jet, low-level jet coming off the around the southeastern portion of the Texas Louisiana border here. So we have a strong inflow of moisture off the coast. There's no inhibitions there. Winds are nice out of the southeast, backing winds there, so a lot of shear and directional shear. If we look at the 850 millibar winds, we can see that low-level jet continues with winds up to about 50 to 60 knots well into around Tyler, Texas there. And we can see strong winds coming around the back end of that upper level low that's over Mexico. We increase the winds up to about 10,000 feet at 700 millibars. We can see the jet beginning to come in and penetrate into southwestern portion of Texas. There was a little bit of outflow and divergence aloft beginning to take place over that area. So that's the reason why I think we'll have a better chance of the greater severe weather over the southwestern, that will be increased, southwestern Texas, that will be increasing in time. And again, the flood potential with more of a unidirectional flow over the Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana border areas. That's where we'll see a lot of potential flooding. Can't rule out some severe weather over Minnesota there with that small jet associated with that upper level low around that area, a little compact low. We go up to 500 millibars. Again, we see that strong jet with that upper level low south of Arizona. Again, diffluence aloft pretty much all over Texas and into Oklahoma, hence the reason for the outlook. Winds going to be increasing to about 85 to 90 knots. And we go up to the 300 millibar level. Again, we can see the jet is still pretty strong behind this trough, so this trough will be expected to maybe dig a little bit further to the south. Again, quite a diffluent flow aloft over much of Texas. I think, again, the bigger risk for severe weather is going to be over central and west and south central portions of Texas with this kind of outlook at this point. Winds very strong here, pushing up to about 160, 170 knots with this jet. Very strong for this time of the year. Looking at aviation weather at this point in time, at 17Z, or convective outlook, at this point in time we have a convective outlook in effect for thunderstorms with tops up to 45,000 feet or above over central Oklahoma and Texas associated with those storm systems. The outlook is expanded outwardly into southwestern portions of Missouri, most of Arkansas, Louisiana. I believe that this will be increased and included back in southwestern Texas later today for thunderstorms tops between 42 and 40,000 feet and higher as we go on. Looking at turbulence right now, turbulence is being reported, moderate turbulence between 30 and 38,000 feet, associated with that small jet that we noticed earlier in the upper level wind flow pattern that will be moving into Minnesota later today. And then icing right now, at this point in time, there's no icing issues associated across the United States, but I would expect some icing to begin to increase a little bit later as we get some cooler air injected with that upper level low, and then maybe along the west coast down the road, and maybe associated with some of the thunderstorms and higher tops in those thunderstorms. We want to thank you for joining us today, and we will keep you up to date as the day goes on.